I see 35 waiting.
Do you remember just-in-time manufacturing, which originated in Japan?
I see 35 waiting.
Today, the principle has evolved. It is no longer just about delivering parts at the right time and place. It's about having the right data in the right place at the right time. Throughout the series, SAP BDC, the next era of business data, we've explored how organizations can build exactly that kind of data-driven foundation. And now, as we close the series, for now, the question remains, what does it actually cost? That's exactly what today's session is about, breaking down the SAP BDC pricing model. Welcome everyone into today's live expert session. We are thrilled to have you join us. Today, I have the pleasure of having with me Brian Raver. Excuse me, I think I need to drink something. Brian is, Brian is Vice President of Technical Product Marketing for SAP's data and analytics portfolio, bringing over 20 years of experience as both a customer and consultant, including 15 years at SAP. He has held key roles such as SAP HANA Solution Engineer, Enterprise Architect, and Solution Owner for Data Management Solutions. With a strong technical foundation in basis and database administration, he specializes in performance optimization. Today, Brian focuses on leveraging modern data and AI capabilities to drive business innovation, helping organizations transform their data strategies. And now, without further ado, over to you, Brian.
Great, thank you, Tania. That's a lot. So let me share my screen and I will get started here. So hopefully the sharing has started. And as Tania said, my current role, I'm responsible for BDC technical product marketing and commercialization. And of course, today's topic is about breaking down the SAP BDC pricing model. So with that, I think we can just jump right in. And let me first talk about our agenda for today. So in terms of the topics that we'll try to cover, we'll start with an overview of, or a review of the basic commercial concept. So talk about BDC's commercial model and especially BDC core. I'll explain what that means in a minute here. But really want to talk about the foundation of BDC and how we've commercialized that and how you as a customer can consume that and take advantage of the capabilities. Second, I'll share a few key resources with you. Want to make sure that you know where to find the details and the information that you need so that you can estimate your projects and size purchases accordingly. Third, we'll talk about intelligent packages. Again, I'll talk about the concepts in the overview, but intelligent packages are an important part of the strategy and really bringing to life the capabilities of BDC. Fourth, we'll give a little bit of a preview of some of the things that are coming up. So talk about our commercial roadmap. And then finally, we'll talk about what's on your mind. So tried to structure this so we don't have a ton to present, but want to make sure we answer some questions if you have them. And I have a couple colleagues here, Tara Rogers and Amar Naji, who are experts on these topics as well and can help support me with some of those questions. So with that, jumping into the commercial concept, I thought that it maybe makes sense for me to take a step back and first talk about a concept. And we introduced some years ago, but now at a larger scale with BDC, we introduced this concept of capacity units. And I like to use an analogy for that. And that analogy ages me a little bit, but that's okay. And I'm a child of the 80s, I like to say. And one of my favorite things to do was to go to the arcade and play some games. And when you went to the arcade in the 80s, you had to take your currency and put it into a change machine. And you got a fistful of tokens, right? And then you could take those tokens and you could play games. And those games cost different numbers of tokens and got you different capabilities, if you will, within those games. And so I put three of my favorite games here on the screen. The first two, Skee Ball and Pole Position, were my favorites in the 80s. So I could play some Skee Ball. Usually it was 2 tokens would get you 9 balls, and you could play the game. With Pole Position was 1 token, and you got a qualifying lap and maybe a 3-lap race to play that game. But so the point is that you have these tokens, the games cost different things, you got different value out of them. And then, of course, as I got a little older and, to be honest, turned 21 and started going to the bar, my new favorite game was Ms. Pac-Man, and I could play that. I like the cocktail table version so that I could set my beer on the table and play Ms. Pac-Man. And with Ms. Pac-Man, 1 token got you 3 lives. So why do I say all that? The reason for that little walk down memory lane is really to just explain this concept we have of capacity units. And with BDC, as we get into this detail, it gets very technical and very detailed. But at the end of the day, BDC capacity units, you can think of those like those arcade tokens. And within BDC, we've got a number of different games you can play, really to tailor that environment to the workload of your unique business. So when we talk about the Business Data Cloud commercials, you'll hear us talk about kind of 2 layers to that commercial structure. The first is Business Data Cloud core capacity. And Business Data Cloud core capacity is the one that uses those capacity units or tokens. Right? So what we offer there is a single commercial model with those capacity units that allows for that flexible consumption with subscription pricing. So we'll get into exactly what you can use those tokens towards or capacity units towards in just a minute. But BDC core capacity is that capacity unit-based model using those quote-unquote tokens. The second layer that sits on top is what we refer to as intelligent packages. And again, we'll go into exactly which intelligent packages we have available. But intelligent packages deliver for either an LOB, a line of business, or an industry, deliver data products and intelligent content. Intelligent content meaning things like DataSphere semantic models, SAC stories or metrics, and even BTP apps in some cases. So those intelligent packages are meant to kind of encapsulate a specific line of business or industry capability. So going a level deeper into that, I mentioned on the left-hand side now you see this Business Data Cloud core capacity. This is where we use those capacity units, and today you can use that towards 5 different services. Those are SAP DataSphere, SAP Analytics Cloud, SAP Databricks, SAP BDC Connect, which enables our connectivity to the different partner platforms within our ecosystem, and then SAP Business Warehouse Cloud. And that's our private cloud edition of BW, but gives us a way to quote unquote call that off via those capacity units. Again, we'll go into a little bit more detail on that in a minute. On the right-hand side, you see those intelligent packages I mentioned. And an important principle here is that we always have the core capacity plus at least 1 intelligent package. And I'll explain those intelligent packages in a little bit more detail as we go. Today, there are 5 of them, but we always have core capacity plus 1 or more of the intelligent packages on the right. As a principle, those packages on the right have an aligned metric with the source application that they're connected to. And again, we'll talk about those metrics as we go here. Now going deeper into BDC core. Before we talk about the pricing, I think it's important to understand what provisioning looks like. And so when I mentioned that there are those 5 components inside of BDC core, 4 of those are what we would refer to as public cloud services. Right? So they have self-service provisioning via SAP for me. Whereas the 5th service, Business Warehouse Cloud, I mentioned that that's a private cloud service. And so because it's private cloud, it does not have the self-service provisioning, but instead you, I call that off, but basically it's an on-request provisioning. SAP Enterprise Cloud Services tailors and builds up that landscape. And that's called off via the order form in something we call Exhibit 1. You'll see that if and when you make a purchase of BDC Core and you have a BW system that's being brought into that model. But it essentially, in the actual contract or order form, there will be an Exhibit 1 that calls off that system. So before we proceed into the details of the pricing of those, especially those 4 public cloud services, I thought it might be worthwhile to just spend less than a minute showing you what that provisioning experience looks like. So if I just really quickly show you, this is SAP for me. Hopefully that's familiar to everyone. Within SAP for me, we have a BDC tile. And when you go into that BDC tile, this is the look that you would see. Under BDC, we have applications, and you can see here that we have 3 different applications available. I will say that this click-through demo is a little dated, so we're missing BDC Connect, and if BW was called off, we might see that here as well. But in this case, we can see SAP Analytics Cloud, SAP DataSphere, SAP Databricks. And the way the provisioning worked, like I said, it's self-service. So you would click Start Provisioning, fill in some basic information in this General Info tab. We're going to choose a production system or tenant, assign some quota to that system. So in the case of SAC, the 3 relevant metrics for a production system are the number of BI users, the number of Planning Standard users, and the number of Planning Pro users. In this case, we've set with 1 Planning Standard and 10 Planning Pro. You can see that it's assigned me that I need 8,277 capacity units. You say next. You're choosing the data center that's being provisioned in, maybe some basic information again, parameters for that system. You review that, and then you click Finish, and it provisions that system, right? So it's creating that SAC tenant at this stage, and now I've got an SAC tenant that is actually consuming the capacity units that we discussed. Now, that's not pricing, that's provisioning, but I think it's important to understand that connected experience. And you noticed that when I went through that, I assigned, or it helped me assign a quota of capacity units. And it's important to understand that, as a customer, you will have purchased some quantity of capacity units. And of course, you want to make sure that that's the right amount, right? That now our quota and what we're actually consuming match what we purchased, and we didn't buy too much or too little of those tokens. So with that, kind of coming back to the pricing specifically, I'm not going to go line by line through the details of the pricing. Of course, you will do that on your own as you tailor a unique landscape to your business or your organization. But I think it's worthwhile to just point out a few things here, right? So if we look at DataSphere specifically, this slide is for DataSphere, and we'll quickly look at some of the others as well. But with DataSphere, you see that we've broken that down into kind of a menu of services. And as you're provisioning that system within SAP for me, and then within the flexible tenant configuration of DataSphere, you're choosing these services kind of like your menu card to build up your system. Of course, there are some rules, right? So like the most basic DataSphere system, for example, is always going to have at least or is always going to have a quantity 1 of the foundation. That's just going to happen by default. It's always going to have at least 2 compute units. Of course, you can choose what kind of compute unit, but by default, that tends to be a memory optimized compute. So we'll get 2 of those. And you'll get a fixed baseline set of storage as well. I think it's 8 blocks in the baseline DataSphere system. And you would see that as part of that tenant configuration. And then, of course, you can add more compute, you can add more storage, you can add object storage if you want to have the object store, all of these other capabilities, right? And so this allows you to flexibly build up that tenant in a way that is perfectly suited to your business needs. I should also point out here that you notice that almost all of these metrics are per hour. And that means that you consume credits when they're active, right? So once you spin up that DataSphere tenant, it's going to start consuming on an hourly basis. If you add capacity, it's only going to start consuming more capacity the moment you expand that. There's some rules about downscaling and things like this, but at the end of the day, you're paying for what you use in terms of consuming capacity units. So we generally, you'll notice in our tools, which we'll look at in a few minutes, that we account for 730 hours a month. Some months are a few more hours, some months are a few less. But as a general rule, we base it on 730. So that's DataSphere. We could quickly look at SAC. Same concept, right? We have 4 different user types. These are tiered in this case, so there is a tiering benefit to moving to a higher user count. You can see that pretty clearly. My only piece of advice to you here would be watch those tiers. It makes no sense to provision 500 users. Provision the 500 first. It will save you capacity units, right? So there is some logic in doing that. But otherwise, I think these are pretty straightforward. You saw in the provisioning that we looked at a few minutes ago that you can allocate that quota. If you, from month to month, and by the way, with SAC, those are users per month, and it's the high water mark during that month. So from month to month, you can reduce or increase that quantity and consume different amounts of capacity units. That's by design, right? It's meant to be flexible in that way. SAP Databricks gets a little more complicated, but I will admit that if you take a look at the contractual documents, this is 10 pages of metrics, and that's something that bothers all of us. As people that are aiming for simplification, we don't love that. But when we simplify that, basically it comes down to we have this one page of services that make up SAP Databricks. They have some different units of measure, but again, these are all consumption based. So they have capacity unit values that are in ranges. And the reason those ranges are there is because Databricks pricing varies by hyperscaler and region, right? So to be perfectly blunt about it, if you're running those services in the US East region, the price is a little bit lower than it would be, say, if you're running that in Brazil, right? Whether you're in AWS or Azure or GCP, there is some variability between the hyperscalers as well. But at the end of the day, it's the region that drives a lot of that. And that's because those regions carry different hyperscaler costs. So we'll, again, look at our capacity unit estimator here in a few minutes, and you'll get an idea of how you can plan for that effectively. And then the last one that we'll look at the details on is BDC Connect. SAP BDC Connect for Databricks and SAP BDC Connect for SAP Snowflake are published today. You may be aware that we've made announcements of BDC Connect for Snowflake, meaning Brownfield Snowflake versus the SAP Snowflake, for Microsoft Fabric, and for Google BigQuery. Those will all be published at the time the technology is ready and launched, when we have that product truth. But this is the basic structure that occurs for BDC Connect. And the one thing I'll point out here, the interesting tidbit of knowledge, is this inter-region data transfer. That only applies if your BDC tenant and your, in this case, let's say Databricks or SAP Snowflake tenant, are in different hyperscaler regions, right? If they are in the same region, there's no inter-region data transfer. It's just the processing requests. But if you, for whatever reason, you choose to put BDC in AWS US East, and your Databricks is in, let's say it's in GCP US Central in Iowa, then you would have inter-region data transfer fees. Finally, I didn't try to make a table here for BW in BDC Core. I just wanted to point out that in the service description guide, which again we'll look at here in a few minutes, there are 77 capacity services that make up BW in BW Private Cloud in BDC Core. And we have experts who help to size that on request, right? So we have these Cloud Architect Advisors, or CAAs. that will tailor to a customer-specific landscape. So if you have those scenarios, reach out via your AE or account executive. They will help you get to a CAA or cloud architect advisor who will tailor that to your specific landscape and let you know exactly how many capacity units are needed for that landscape. I'm moving quickly, and I promise we'll leave plenty of time for questions, but let's talk about key resources. So I put a few things in here. I first of all would point you to contracts, and I say that very cautiously because I suspect that my audience is not full of lawyers who want to look at contracts. But I will point out that always the definitive source is the contract, right? And so if you just Google, I don't even know this website off the top of my head. I Google it every time, SAP agreements, and it takes me to this website. If you go under cloud services, you will find for BDC both a document called the supplemental terms and conditions and a document called the service description guide. In the service description guide, you will find tables 1 through 6, and that is where the definitive source for each of those rates that I just showed you quickly is held. Now, I say all that very cautiously, like I said, because you're not lawyers and I don't want you to go read contracts. Of course, it's the thing that we're legally held to and that we're legally committed to, but we also provide better tools for you to be able to access that. We'll come to the tool in a minute. I probably have this out of order, but the other thing I want to point you to is system measurement. So you can see this link at the bottom. It's not a very friendly link, but you can always come back and get that link. This link points to our system measurement page on the support portal. And within that, you will find, if you were to scroll down from the screenshot that you see here, down below Business Technology Platform, you will find a section called Data and Analytics. And within Data and Analytics, you'll find a customer information sheet for BDC Core. Within that customer information sheet, it tells you for each component of BDC Core exactly how to see how capacity units are being measured and see that within the system. So these two screenshots that you see, a little hard to get a good screenshot on this slide, but I believe the top one is for SAC, and in that case, you're seeing exactly how many users are being consumed and how many capacity units that is driving. On the bottom is for DataSphere, and it's showing the capacity unit consumption in DataSphere. So just to show you this really quickly, I think if we go to that support portal site that I mentioned, system measurement, we scroll down, like I mentioned, there is a section for data and AI and BDC capacity units. Within that is our customer information sheet. And you see all of these metrics and how they're done. And most importantly, for verification of the measurement results by the customer, you see exactly how to proceed for DataSphere, how to proceed for Analytics Cloud, for BW, for Databricks, and get that visibility of exactly what you're consuming. The third resource that I want to mention is the capacity unit estimator. And this one is the one that I think is the most valuable. To be honest, I suspect the audience here, like I said, you're probably not lawyers. You don't want to go dig through contracts. You'd rather just have a nice tool to kind of tailor your landscape as needed. So I'm gonna click on this. You can, again, I usually don't know this link off the top of my head, but if you just Google BDC capacity unit estimator, I promise it'll get you there. But the first thing you can do is make sure you're selecting the right hyperscaler and region. I'm just going to go ahead and stick with AWS Frankfurt for now. And what you can then do is begin to add systems. So in this case, maybe I want to add a DataSphere system. You'll notice that, like I mentioned, it immediately gave me 8 storage blocks, 2 compute blocks, and it's also accounting for that foundation that I mentioned. From there, I can start to tailor this. So if I add, that's a 32 gig of memory system that's relatively small. So maybe I want to take that to 128 gig. I just add some more compute blocks. You notice it brought storage along with for the ride. I could start to say, you know, that I'd really like some object store to support. Let's say I'm going to build some custom data products in the DataSphere object store. I can add those components, and you start to see that it's calculating for me my total capacity unit need per month for that system. Of course, if I wanted to add, in addition to my production system, I wanted to add a dev and a QA, I can just simply add some more systems. And likewise, if I want to add SAP Analytics Cloud, I can very quickly say, you know, I want to have 25 BI users, bare bones SAC tenant, and it adds up that 640 capacity units per month. And the point here is that we're providing this tool to hopefully simplify what can be a very complex model. We love the flexibility, by the way, of capacity units, but recognize that it's sometimes difficult to predict exactly what you need. And so this capacity unit estimator is meant to allow you to really tailor to your unique landscape, determine exactly what your need is. And down here at the bottom, you're going to see a monthly capacity unit need, or in the top right, an annual capacity unit need. And that can really guide you towards the right quantity that you need to purchase. And by the way, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, we have solution advisors and other people supporting our account executives to help you get to exactly this detail and give you the confidence that you're purchasing the right number of capacity units for what your business needs. So that's the capacity unit estimator. This is, in my opinion, a super useful tool. And hopefully you'll see more features coming to this, you know, in the future, being able to save the results, being able to export the results, things like that. We know that's something that we hear constantly requests for, and we continue to innovate on this, as well as adding more services as and when they become available as part of BDC Core. So coming back to the presentation, again, I'm going really fast, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions in the chat. Hopefully Amar and Tara are looking at those. But let's talk about intelligent packages for a minute. So I mentioned earlier that we always sell BDC Core plus at least one intelligent package. First of all, we have 4 line of business or industry intelligent packages available today. Those are Cloud ERP Intelligence Private, People Intelligence, Finance Intelligence, and Retail Intelligence. By the way, you see the footnote, Finance Intelligence and Retail Intelligence, those are in controlled availability right now. So some limited early adopters, but those are available on request, let's say. If we think about those intelligent packages that exist today, the first one on the far left, you know, if we're being honest, by far the most popular at the moment is really connected to Cloud ERP Private, so also known as RISE, right? So this is the package that delivers, like I mentioned, data products and intelligent content for Cloud ERP Private. I think I looked yesterday, there were a little over 205 data products delivered for Cloud ERP Private. So if you want to get access to that, this is the package to purchase. It has an aligned metric with Cloud ERP, which is full use equivalence. We get a lot of questions about that metric, by the way, and so I want to just address it. The metric needs to be aligned, even if you aren't going to have that same number of users actually consuming the analytics, let's say, that are produced from the intelligent package. The reason is that the metric is meant to be connected to the data volume that's coming through. If you have 1,000 FUEs or full use equivalents on your Cloud ERP system, those 1,000 FUEs are creating transactions that are generating data that needs to flow into these data products in the Cloud ERP Private Intelligent Package. And so that metric is aligned for that purpose. It's about the data volume that's being generated. It's not about the users of the intelligent package itself. And then we also have what we call a BDC Core attach, right? So I mentioned that it's always BDC Core plus an intelligent package. With these intelligent packages, we've designed a prescribed quantity of capacity units. It's really intended to make sure that you have the quantity that's necessary for a minimum viable productive use. Right. So with Cloud ERP Intelligence Private, you'll find that if you purchase a certain number of FUEs, it's going to tell you exactly, or your AE is going to tell you exactly how many capacity units at a minimum need to come with that, and we'll attach that to the deal. The second intelligent package to mention is People Intelligence. This is the same concept applied to SuccessFactors. So this is connected to SuccessFactors Employee Central. The metric is users, just like SuccessFactors is, which is in their case is an individual with a unique active profile. That for us laymen, that means employees in a company. And so that again has that aligned metric because we're bringing all of that employee data from SuccessFactors into here, even if the number of users actually consuming those reports and applications on the People Intelligence side is only let's say it's only our HR business professionals. And then we can apply this exact same concept again to Finance Intelligence, where this is connected to our public cloud ERP with Finance Base or Finance Premium users. And then, of course, finally, we have a slightly different concept with Retail Intelligence. This is where we move to more of an industry flavor. It does have the same source application. It does have an aligned metric with documents. But in this case, we're looking at, documents are a little different from the users. We're looking at demand forecasts, order plan items, and supply network nodes. So same concepts apply. Hopefully that makes good sense. Now, the question we always get is, I'm not on RISE yet. I'm not a SuccessFactors customer at the moment. None of these packages are applicable to me. I have not yet started my RISE journey, and I still run S4 on premises or ECC even. What can I do? And so that's why we introduced I call it an intelligent package alternative, which is customer managed data products. And this is really meant to support any source. It has a metric of flat fee. And the idea here is that we just provide a small package that gives you the capability, number one, to qualify for BDC, because we need to have that intelligent package attached. And number two, allows you to start building your own custom data products. So you may choose to bring ECC data into DataSphere. Ideally, you're building up some data products in the DataSphere object store, or you're just building analytic reporting maybe in DataSphere. And this is really what flips that switch and makes this possible. Okay, so customer managed data products is a flat fee. It's a relatively low flat fee that flips that switch and allows you to start building customer managed data products. So it's again that alternative. If you're not yet ready for one of the intelligent packages, or maybe we just don't have the package yet for your customer scenario, this allows you to get started with your data transformation, perhaps ahead of, for example, a RISE transformation. By the way, the attach, just based on a minimum of 640 capacity units. You saw that earlier when I created that SAC tenant. That baseline tenant with 25 BI users was 640 capacity units. So this allows us to get started small if that's the customer need. This flat fee customer managed data product SKU plus 640 capacity units, and you've got enough to get going. Last topic I'm going to cover before we go into Q&A is commercial roadmap. So this is, again, a little bit of a preview. We've, I think, announced all of these, if not, surprise. We will add 2 large capabilities to BDC Core in the coming weeks and months. These are both planned for Q2 for general availability. Typical roadmap disclaimers apply, but we are adding SAP HANA Cloud. So the ability to provision a HANA Cloud tenant database as part of your BDC capacity units. So it's just, go back to my analogy, it's one more game to play with your tokens. And then also S4 HANA Cloud for master data governance extra stack. This is MDG, rounding out kind of the data ecosystem, right? Master data is obviously critical to a high quality data platform and making sure that we have the right quality of data. And so MDG is being added as well. It's going to look very much like BW because that is a private cloud component. So where I mentioned earlier that you would engage a CAA to tailor the landscape, the same process applies. I mentioned something called Exhibit 1 in the order form. This will be Exhibit 2. And we're just adding that ability to, again, use those capacity units for one more service. And then on the right-hand side, you see intelligent packages. All of these were announced previously, but just giving you some insight into what we see coming this year. Both spend intelligence and consumer products intelligence are planned controlled availability this quarter. With any luck, in weeks, not months. So you can expect to see spend intelligence, which will cover that source system of Ariba, and consumer products intelligence, which will cover another set of industry content very soon. And then also within the course of the coming months or quarters, you will see travel and expense intelligence. This is the data products and intelligent content for Concur. You will see supply chain intelligence, which again is that in data products and intelligent content for the supply chain side of public cloud ERP, as well as some of our supply chain apps. And then finally, also revenue intelligence. This is the same concept applied to our CX portfolio, our customer experience portfolio. So these are all things that we have coming down the pipe. We're super excited about expanding that scope and really delivering more and more value to you as the customer. So with that, I'm going to stop. I feel like I've rambled way too long. Hopefully we have some active questions. I'm going to stop sharing so that we have a proper view and we can go from there. Tania, I'll hand it back to you if you have any comments.
Oh, we do. So first of all, let me thank you for your excellent presentation. And yes, we have one or the other question in the chat. Perhaps we want to ask Tara and Amar to join us because they have kind of already started answering the questions. And it's really difficult to keep control over the questions. Let me start. Let me have a look. So I think the first open question I have here is, why can't we have SAC also CU-based like DSP? SAC is still a number of I licenses for BI and planning. Any specific reasons for this? For BI and planning. And Tara, do you want to share your screen as well? Not or the camera? Tara? Here we go.
Yeah, it just took a while. So hi. So currently the metric is still user base, and that's how it is at this time. So there's no immediate plans for changes on that metric.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would maybe just add a comment to that. I think quite honestly, per user per month is pretty standard in the market for the analytics tools. So I don't envision that we would be changing that. What I could see is some evolution of the cost model and how we allocate tenants. One of the things you'll notice with BDC is that we only offer the public option, and that was by design. We no longer see a need for the so-called dedicated option of SAC, especially with the advent of seamless planning and DataSphere. And that allows us to hopefully continue to evolve the model of SAC in the BDC context. But I do think that a per user per month metric is pretty standard. What we are investigating is whether we have the right user types and the right scope of those user types, and so we're looking at some evolution in that front, just to give a preview of probably more than I should say, to be honest, but that's okay.
Thank you very much. A question, just a quick question to Tara, or ask to Tara and Amar. In case I ask a question you've already answered, just let us know. So next one, do you really pay for what you use per hour, or the capacity is reserved and you pay regardless of the activity in the tenant, like it is right now in DataSphere?
So I could answer that. In terms of capacity services, we're very explicitly clear in how we meter our services. So in some cases, it is per hour, and it's going to be based on actual consumption. In some cases, for a capacity service, it will be based on a flat amount. For a lot of the DataSphere type capacity services, they are based on actual consumption. We show also online how to see your consumption for such services in what we call on the support pages a customer information sheet. So we do document that in terms of where do I see my consumption for BDC. We show you how to do that. And also in terms of this metering, we take it, Brian had mentioned there's multiple components in the BDC solution. We actually will specify in the supplement what ones are going to be based on this consumption approach versus some that are not. So it's fairly detailed in those kind of discussions, it can go, you can work with your account teams, of course, to see that further in detail.
Thank you. Any addition, Brian? Fine with you?
Good, thank you.
Next question is, can you easily scale up and down?
So I will say it depends, and more I would say depends on the service, right? We serve multiple services. If it's a private cloud, if it's talking about a BW environment, that may take some coordination with the team that manages the environment. Public cloud's different. Amar, can I hand off the mic to you?
Oh, thank you, Tara. Yeah, on the let's for example, the DataSphere, it's really up to the admin of the tenant. They can go into what we call the flexible tenant configuration kind of area, and they can scale up and scale down the compute, the storage, as needed. Storage always only scaling up, cannot scale it down. The only way to scale down storage would be to reset it. But then everything else, the other consumption-based components like POI, data integration, they're really consumption as needed. They're always on, and they consume capacity units as the workflows are executed. So a lot of flexibility there.
Thank you. That's awesome. Next question. Can you please explain how it is working that you can adjust the user in the SEC depending on month? Because the total number of CU we will buy for a month, correct?
Yeah, correct. I mean, so there's a distinction between what you purchase and what's actually consumed, right? And so the consumption is based on the allocation, via SAP for me, like I showed. So you can change that quota assignment up and down month to month, and our metering will be based on the high water mark during any given month. But while you can't change the amount that you've purchased for that month, what you can do is, let's say you wanted to scale back the number of users in SAC, and then you wanted to repurpose those capacity units to use them towards more compute in DataSphere temporarily, or towards some SAP Databricks machine learning workload. What it gives you is that flexibility to move those capacity units around. But of course, what you've purchased for the month is what you've purchased. And so, you have that fistful of tokens, you can use them for the different services, but the number of tokens is fixed for the month, if that's what they were getting at.
Thank you. And the next one, can you go over the pricing of using BDC Connect with Snowflake? Both Snowflake and BDC are in the same hyperscaler and same zone.
Yeah, so maybe I can talk about a couple things because I think BDC Connect for Snowflake, I want to be really clear. What I showed was BDC Connect for SAP Snowflake, and there will be a difference between SAP Snowflake, which we sometimes refer to as Greenfield, and Snowflake, or Enterprise Snowflake maybe, which we would refer to as Brownfield, right? They will have a different set of fees when we release BDC Connect for Snowflake in the coming weeks. I also saw a question in the chat about timing on that. That is still planned for the first half of the year. I want to be very careful that I'm not making a roadmap commitment, but I will tell you that that is planned in the next, within the next 4 weeks, let's say. That may change. That's always subject to change. Usual roadmap disclaimer, but I expect that in the next 4 weeks. When BDC Connect for Snowflake is launched, we will publish the pricing for that. I am not in a position to talk about what those fees will look like today, but I will tell you that there will be an incremental fee in addition to the interregion and the API calls. And that we will have to cover at a later time. When it comes to the interregion and the API calls, like you see today for Databricks and for SAP Snowflake, we do have some sizing guidance we can get into on a customer-specific basis. But as I mentioned, interregion only applies if they're provisioned in different data centers or different hyperscaler and regions. The API requests, again, we have some sizing guidance that talks about how many requests you can expect. Our solution advisors can help with that. That's really best to address on a customer-specific basis.
Thank you. And the next one, with BDC CUs, do we still need to have BTP licenses?
I guess
Yeah,
it's going to be okay, go on, Brian, sorry.
But I was just going to say, I mean, BDC capacity units and BTP licenses are completely independent and distinct of each other. Again, I think where Tara was going, it's going to depend on the customer-specific workload, right? So if you have a need, for example, you want to integrate your BDC with the identity provider or identity services of BTP, then you might have a need for both, right? If you have use cases in your enterprise where you're going to use build as a studio to build custom applications that consume data products, of course, you're going to need both, right? So there is definitely some overlaps, but they also are mutually exclusive. So there is potential that you could have build scenarios and you never need BDC. I hope that doesn't happen, but there are those scenarios where you might have BTP with no BDC. Likewise, there could be scenarios where you need BDC and you just don't have a need for BTP. But there's of course some tight integrations and value of having both, but they are mutually exclusive.
Thank you so much. Is SAP Databricks not running in a dedicated SAP-owned environment, but is it running just like the broad Databricks solution of any of the 3 big non-SAP hyperscalers?
So SAP Databricks is obviously SAP branded. It's a first-party service from SAP. Contractually, we own it, but behind the scenes, of course, no surprise, that's OEM product from Databricks. So we run that in the hyperscalers. Actually, we have a provider service from Databricks, so it's coming via our contract, but it's operated by Databricks in their normal hyperscaler environments. The scope of SAP Databricks, as is probably well known, is a little different from the full Databricks scope, but we have a really valuable service there that complements our own services. But at the end of the day, I think the question's asking, where that's operated. It is in the hyperscaler environments. It is operated by Databricks as part of our partnership agreement. And it's not operated in an SAP data center, which, by the way, most of the BDC services, we really don't use SAP data centers today anyway. For example, DataSphere and SAC today, we don't offer in SAP data centers. These are all operated in the hyperscaler environments with proper security and isolation and all those good things, right, within our accounts. So,
Thank you. Where is HANA Cloud charged? Not shared or part of the ones you showed?
so HANA Cloud, like I mentioned, that's coming soon. I'll say again in the next few weeks with the usual roadmap disclaimers. But HANA Cloud will be another table in the service description guide. It will be another service in the capacity unit estimator. So just like when you saw me go into the capacity unit estimator and I clicked add and I chose DataSphere or I chose SAC, you'll see another option to choose HANA Cloud, right? And likewise in SAP for me, you'll see another tile for HANA Cloud. When we provision that, it will provision an instance of HANA Cloud Central, and you'll be able to provision database tenants from there, right? So it will consume capacity units just like the other services. It will have its own rate table, if you will. And of course, you'll see that in the estimator as well. So we will publish that as soon as that's available. Like I said, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But that will be another table of capacity services with rates that consume capacity units, just like DataSphere, SAC, or the others, right? So going back to my analogy one more time, because I can't give it up. It's one more game to play with those tokens.
Great, thank you. When it comes to object store compute and API calls, is there a way to obtain full control and understand how much of those two was spent for each operation, as object store cost comes from those two?
So, maybe I'll take that. So there is within the DataSphere instance under the flexible tenant configuration page, there are usage cards that are displayed there for the different services that are being consumed with the details of the capacity units, usage, and also if there is overusage based on the allocated capacity units. So we provide some of that details within the DataSphere tenant itself under flexible tenant configuration.
Thank you. So there is a follow-up question. I would like to ask you anyway. So for which scenario do we go for HANA Data Lake? And for which scenario do we go for HDLFS-based object store? I'm not sure, Tara or Amar.
Yeah, I'll take that. I did include a link actually to the community. There are blogs by our SMEs that provide different use cases. Data Lake, for example, use cases is using it for to move hot data and cold data and move data around between. That's related mainly also for use cases like BW, for example, BW Bridge. And then the object store itself is really for onboarding data products. And now within the context of BDC, leveraging the data product generator, you can leverage the object store in DataSphere to onboard info provider data products or BW data products via the DPG into the object store. So there are a lot of use cases. There are several blogs about the topics and the different capabilities for these components or capacity services.
Thank you so much. Now, BDC Connect would be used to integrate with Snowflake outside of SAP, correct? Or is that a separate license?
So yes, BDC Connect will be used for integrating with Snowflake outside of BDC. So the announcements that we've made with BDC Connect is partnerships with Databricks, which is already available, Google BigQuery, Snowflake, and Microsoft Fabric. Each of those are integrations with what we sometimes refer to as brownfield environments of those, right? With SAP Databricks and SAP Snowflakes, SAP Snowflake, we have quote unquote greenfield, meaning new landscapes or tenants within our ecosystem. But with all four, we have quote unquote brownfield, which means integration with an existing landscape of those purchased via those partners directly or via their resellers. So we will support that open ecosystem where we have integration with, again, Snowflake, Databricks, Microsoft Fabric, and Google BigQuery, using BDC Connect to do sharing of data products with those landscapes. And by the way, bi-directional, right, is the plan. So those are all partnerships that we've established. The pricing for each of them will have some nuances, and we'll publish those as soon as we possibly can and as soon as the products are available.
Thank you so much. What is now the correct terminology for intelligent packages? First, it was inside apps, then intelligent applications, now intelligent packages. It starts becoming confusing.
Yeah. Hey, Tania, I
Yeah,
had
me
answered
too.
that in chat. Yeah. And we don't disagree. And I don't think it's unique to SAP to do such things. So if we're all SAP users, it would be odd if we didn't change things. So I don't think it's anyone here on the call that's driving all this behavior. But yes, so we're going to change how we refer to them, and they are intelligent packages. I think if you were to ask me about intelligent packages, applications, intelligent apps, I probably would know what you're referring to, but you will see in our announcements and Core Sapphire updates the use of intelligent packages. So I did start to use that in chat just to, get used to it, put our toes in the water to get used to the naming, you know. This may
And
or may not be
I think
the last. Yeah, go on.
the other
So,
thing I would maybe add to that, Tara, is, look, I think we would be fools if we didn't acknowledge the pace at which AI is moving, right? And AI is disrupting every application. And I think one of the things that we have to kind of fall on the sword and acknowledge is that it's not acceptable to have only a subset of our applications be intelligent. They all have to be intelligent, right? So when we were referring to BDC intelligent applications, it was almost implying that other applications weren't intelligent. And that's simply unacceptable, right? S4 is an intelligent application. Ariba is an intelligent application. Concur is an intelligent application. SuccessFactors, on down the list. And so we want to be very careful that we're not making some implication that intelligent applications are only possible with BDC. They are just a certain type of intelligent application. So this is why we've moved to this terminology of intelligent package. It's frustrating, by the way. I mean, you can imagine internally we're equally frustrated by constant naming changes. But hopefully this one's going to stick for a while. And we think it's the right thing to do right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This is also a good place to end. We have so many questions still in the chat. I suggest we take all those questions, you answer them, and we will post them in the comments area underneath this video, because there's simply no time to answer all the questions you asked. But I think Brian, Amar, and Tara, you all promised that you will answer the questions.
yes.
Perfect. Thank you
For
so
sure.
much. And then, once again, a big thanks, Brian, to you for your presentation, Tara and Amar for your support in the chat, as well as answering the questions live. And a big thanks to all attendees for joining. I hope you got a lot of value from this session. You will be informed if there are any new sessions coming up. There are already some planned. That's why I'm telling you already now. And with this, I wish you a great day, a great evening, depending on where you are. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.